Well, hello and welcome people to the internet, back to some more The Spell Brigade. Today we're going to be jumping in with a new character here, the Moon Mage, which honestly I feel like might be a bit of a challenge here. Moonrang I've tried once before and felt like it was actually kind of a challenging weapon, mostly just because it doesn't like hit in a big area, but we'll probably find something to work with this. So Moon Mage, extra damage, less luck, more health. Thank God we're going to be a little bit of a chunkier boy here. Spent a little bit of money on enchantments. I think I went for double armor, and I think I put 2 into health regen just to have something here. I feel like this kind of combo will just help us be a little bit tankier moving forward. I do have a little bit more gold though. I guess I could do one more thing, maybe crit damage, or maybe even pickup distance. I guess we'll take pickup distance. I was kind of thinking that, you know, honestly, we pick up things at a pretty decent range anyway, so why not? And we are going to do the same combo we did last time, just because, you know, Dingus Head over here had Eternal Bond picked. So I guess technically I can have you know what, I'm just gonna have both of these turned off because I don't want to go into endless mode again and then not complete the level technically. So yeah, let's just hop in, let's get her done, let's complete this stage, and yeah, move forward. Didn't do, like I said, I was going to try and do a little bit of, you know, not really a little bit of grinding, but just do the level again. Spell range increase, I'm definitely just taking this critical chance. Like, there's no shot I'm not passing that up. Or there's no shot that I am passing up, I should say. I was going to redo the level just off camera, but honestly, I spent a bit of time grinding off camera in Army of Ruin, and that took up a little bit of my free time, and so I figured, you know what, we'll just do this again. It's not a big deal. Okay, Tornado, let's not follow me. Let's get some armor while I'm sitting here. Christ. Yeah, and because on top of that, as you know, I've been mentioning it a whole bunch in all my videos, and I'm going to say it again, I have been absolutely obsessed with PoE 2. It's just completely, it's like everything that I want to be doing. Just want to be playing that a whole bunch. I'm about 150 hours in now. Yeah, we're just taking more crit chance. Okay, well, we got a crit run, which actually isn't so bad for a weapon that actually hits pretty hard. Yeah, I've been going deep in PoE 2, playing my monk. A lot of late nights. I've been on vacation for the past week, and I still have a couple more. You know what's funny? It's like when I have like 2 days off, so I'll do like a Saturday to a Tuesday type deal. I feel like it's the longest I feel like it's long until I actually get back in the office. Then I feel like it was super short. This week has been like the shortest week I think I've ever had. Honestly, I'm going to take Phantom Blades because I don't think I've taken this one yet. Which unfortunately is just blades in front of me, which you guys know that I don't really like. But we'll see what we can do with it. Maybe we can get some infusion going. Maybe we can get some kind of, you know, change up in how it works. Or we just find a chest and just like completely change how the weapon works. That would be cool too. That's, you know, it's kind of like what I said with the scepter beams, where I was like, this isn't a very good weapon, and I got one chest that made it all connect into a full shape, and I was like, oh, this weapon is busted. Like, all it took was one small change, and all of a sudden the weapon completely opened itself up. What is that? Complete the sacrifice. Ah, that's what that is. Thank you, game. Appreciate that. But the downside to vacations is that my sleep schedule completely... Okay, I mean... Okay, game. I will take your epic crit chance. Thank you. Thank you very much. My sleep schedule completely inverts. And so I end up, rather than... I mean, I'm typically a late night person anyway, you know. Always have been late night. I worked overnights, stocking shelves at a grocery store for quite a few years. That was like completely different sleep schedule. But now typically, you know, even on a work night, like I work 9 to 5, right? But I'll typically still be up until like midnight, 1, worst case scenario 2 o'clock, and that's typically that's not by like my choice. Maybe I just can't get to sleep or something like that. But I've been doing a lot of like mostly 4 a.m. to be completely honest with you. Like Just because my sleep schedule is flipped. It's gotten to the point because I like sleeping in. Like, for example, today I slept in way too long. I haven't done this in forever, but I slept till like 12:45, which is like, I feel like a bum. But you know, sleeping until like 9 or 10 o'clock, and then I just can't get to sleep at my normal time. So, been up till like 4. And yeah, well, now that our crit chance is super high, we're definitely taking crit-based damage, and we're just going to go full-on crit build. Okay, what are we augmenting? Your spell casts in burst. That's kind of a good way to work around it. Your spell aims at the enemies with the most health. Technically, that's actually not bad. I think I'm actually going to take that and use that to kind of, especially when it's going to come down to like the clerics, I'm going to need a way to kind of get into them. Freezing and take them out, and unfortunately I don't think these daggers are going to be it, so it might actually be a reasonable pickup there. But yeah, these 4, I'm gonna have to like switch up my schedule here, because otherwise it's gonna come the Thursday and I'm gonna be a hurting Chico. Spell damage, yeah, we'll take spell damage. Yeah, I want to turn around and hit this guy, but I know as soon as I turn around, yeah, he's going to be, like, right there. There we go. So I need something that can hit behind me. So that's going to be what I'm looking for here. But yeah, this past week, this whole like past Christmas week that I've been on vacation has just been like the fastest week that I've had. I feel like, you know, it hasn't been an entire week since I've been at work. It's crazy. And I never think that. Like, typically I think vacations feel very long, but yeah, we'll take the spell damage on that. But I've just been like, if I'm not recording, I've just been like, grinding PoE. It honestly, a lot of my past couple days, I haven't even really gotten to play the game a lot. A lot of my time is just spent browsing the trade site, trying to find new gear. Because I've been trying a lot of different builds. And unfortunately, the tough thing about the game is that when you're trying new builds, depending on what you're going for, right, you kind of need to change your gear, especially if your builds are very different from each other, right? So I've been playing a lot of Monk, and there's a couple different ways I've tried to build the Monk. So at the start, like, I've gone through, like, when I was playing the campaign, you know, went through a couple of, like, the normal things you do, right? Went for I was more of an electric-based or a lightning-based monk, and then I swapped over, and then I became more of an ice-based monk once I realized, like, oh, I need a little bit of crowd control. I need to be freezing enemies, so that way they don't, you know, they stop moving, as opposed to shocking enemies, which just makes them take more damage. Turns out that being able to crowd control your enemies is actually quite powerful. And then we got into the end game, and I tried all these different builds. Recently, I mean, I swapped into trying a stat stacking build, which, you know, if you're not familiar, stat stacking might sound like, well, duh, don't you just get stats? By stats, I mean literally the trifecta of attributes, those being strength, intelligence, and dexterity. Typically, you don't really stack those. They don't really, unlike other games, they don't really impact. Rocky Road is good to hit enemies behind us. They don't really impact your damage in the same way, or even at all. Like, for example, you would think that strength would increase damage of your melee attacks. That's not how it works at all. Strength actually just gives you more max health, but it's more so those numbers will just allow you to pick, basically use different skills, and will allow you to hit different requirements in order to use certain upgrades. That's really what they're there for. But there was a weapon that a lot of people have been using, not with Monk, but with their mercenaries, and kind of having a very Monk-style build. Your spell also casts behind you. Well, that's just great. Yeah, we're just 100% taking this. See what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, the weapon went from, don't really like it, to, wow, this is god tier. Like, okay then. So, yeah, picked up this weapon that was very much like, you have to have a lot of base stats, because it had increased damage for how much strength you had, increased attack speed for... Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, let's... Oh, I got stuck in a rock. Attack speed for how much dexterity you have, and increased area of effect for how much intelligence you had. But what that meant is that I had to buy, like, all new gear, because my gear didn't have those stats on them. And so I went and, like, bought new gear. And that build was working for a time, but there was a couple things that I didn't fully enjoy with it. Yeah, let's grab the 17% experience. So then, like, I ended up basically, long story short, there's a bunch of different builds I've been trying, but every time that I try, it means that you have to upgrade, you have to change your gear around, because your stat requirements are going to be different. There's going to be different things you're looking for. Depending on some builds, you know, there have been some stats that I just don't need, and so what it does is it opens up my gear to all of a sudden have availability for different things. So, for example, there was a build that I was doing that needed a lot less stats on the gear, and so I was able to fit rarity of items, or it's called Magic Find in game, but basically it allows you to find more rare items as you're defeating enemies, which is actually obviously very important, because then you can sell them, get more currency, and then you can buy better items, right? Makes sense? But sometimes you can't always fit that on your gear, because you need more, like, defensive stats. Defensive stats are very important in Path of Exile. And so, but the good thing, though, is that when you sell gear, and this might seem very straightforward, but I guess it's not, because I've been doing a lot of... What do I want here? Let's go spell cooldown. And let's put some lightning in there. I have a lot of stuff that I've purchased over the years that I've either, upgraded, changed. And so, for example, the very first monitor stand that I bought for my computers, I bought a triple monitor stand. This is back, like, I don't know, probably 10 years ago now. It was one of those monitor stands that's all one piece. It had one center column and then a long metal arm, so that way you could put 3 monitors side by side. Obviously the problem with that is you have one point of contact with the desk, and you put 3 monitors on that, and it's going to bend forward like crazy, and it just put a hole in my desk. So haven't used that for many years now. I typically use a dual arm and a single arm for my well, actually, up until very recently, up until this past week, I've only been using 2 monitors. I just upgraded to a third. I'm just going to take crit chance. We're just going crazy crit damage. Yeah, so, like, I have things like that I've upgraded over time, and I just haven't sold. And so typically what happens is you buy this stuff for expensive, and then you sell it for not as expensive. Whereas it's very different in a game like PoE. Technically, if you can buy gear at its peak, and then all of a sudden people don't want it, and it goes down in value. But a lot of times you can buy stuff and you can sell it for the same amount. So you're kind of just swapping out pieces of gear. There's just a middleman in between that you're getting the currency for. We'll just go for more damage. I don't really think I need the spell size. I still haven't figured out if that spell size is how long the road is or how wide it is. I'm assuming it's how long it is. It's stuck on a rock. All right, let's go ahead and grab all this experience here. So you do end up, like, not necessarily losing out money on the gear you're buying, right? It's not like there's a used gear fee where it's like, oh, someone's already used this gear. Ew, it's gross. It's like, no, you get your currency back. It just takes a little bit of time, right? You got to put it on the market. People got to be interested in buying it. let's go ahead and grab this chest here. Don't blow up on me. Thank you. Don't really need hard lessons. Honestly, I don't really need any of this. I guess I'm just going to take joint protection. But yeah, and it's not like I guess the best example is back when I played RuneScape. The gear is not like that. Now, if you've never played RuneScape before, the gear is very linear. That's probably the wrong way to phrase it, but the gear is the gear. That's probably an even worse way to phrase it. What I mean by that is, for example, there's going to be for armor sets, for chest pieces, there's going to be different levels of armor. So, for example, you start with bronze, you go to iron, then you go to steel. Then I think next is mithril, then adamant. And then you have rune. Oh, hurls a big explosive orb behind you that damages. Oh, heck yeah. This is just 100% what we want. Just hit things behind us. And then after that, you start getting into members gear, and there's a bunch of different armor sets, but that's kind of the main progression. You have dragon after that, but typically you have those. Each of those pieces of armor is always going to have the same defensive stats. Every rune chest piece is going to have the same defenses as every other rune chest piece, right? So no matter what you get, it's always going to be the same. The difference here in Path of Exile is that is not the case. Now, there are different bases, and what I mean by that is that you can have an item, and this was a very confusing part for me to learn at the very start of the game. For some reason, it just didn't click with me. Ooh, what do we want here? Let's go Hex Bomb. We got to get that up. So weapons have different bases, and you can think of the bases as just what is the type of armor. So, for example, you could have I think it's called a waxed jacket, and that is going to have a different base, so different stats, than, I don't know, I honestly don't remember. I know them by the image, I don't know them by the name. But let's just say, I think Scalper's Jacket. Scalper's Jacket is another one. Wait, I failed? Oh, I thought I had way more time than that. That's totally my bad. I was not paying attention. Okay, let's go for spell range. That's a bummer, but that's fine. We're doing okay here. Right, so the stats are going to be slightly different on these two pieces of gear. For example, Scalper's Jacket has a little bit more defensives than the Wax Jacket, but it has a little bit more movement speed based into it. So you have these as your bases, and the bases are always going to be the same stats. But then, I think I talked about this in a previous video, where all the stats are randomized, so you have to kind of craft gear. You get all these different orbs that you can then spend, and these orbs will randomly put different stats on your gear. So one person's Wax Jacket may have, fire resistance, cold resistance, it might have extra evasion, it might have extra defenses, and then someone else's might have, like, you can see farther, you don't get stunned as much, the poison on you lasts longer, and by the way, these all suck, right? I'm saying these specifically. And so one person's level 70 Wax Jacket might be worth, let's say, $1 million, right? Obviously, we don't work in dollars, but just hypothetically. Might be worth $1 million. And then someone else's, the exact same base, it's still a level 70 Wax Jacket, might be worth 25 cents. Just because of the stats that it rolled on it. And so what that does is when you're out there shopping for gear, you can organize the trade website by different stats on the gear, and you can fine tune these. So you can say, like, okay, I want a minimum of this stat, I want a minimum of this stat, it has to have this stat, or it can have one or of two of these other stats. And there's a lot of ways that you can kind of fine tune what you're looking for, and you can just spend hours trying to find the perfect, but then you can also sort by what your budget is. And you can just go very, very deep down the rabbit hole and spend hours trying to find the perfect, you know, piece of gear. For you, I should say, because the perfect piece of gear is extremely expensive, but for you, you know, meeting your budget, it's one of those things, kind of like if you've ever shopped for a car, this is like the perfect analogy, right? If you're not familiar with PoE, this is, obviously there's going to be some people who haven't purchased a car yet, so this is going to be not exactly the best. Let's go for acid. So that way we're constantly doing extra damage to the one thing we're hitting. But we gotta find these statues. There we go. We got 2 right up here. And a chest. Oh, this is just like the perfect spot. There we go. The less health you have, the more move speed you have. Damage increased. And move speed is reduced for every armor. How much armor do I have? A lot. Okay. So if you've ever gone shopping for a car, or I guess anything, this you could say a house, or yes, these are all very expensive things. Computer parts, right? All these things that you guys can probably relate to. Oh yeah, I feel much slower now. I feel much slower. Oh, magnet, that's great. Where you start out, where you're like, okay, I have a budget of, let's say, $100. You got a budget of $100 and you're like, okay, I kind of know, you know, here's my budget. I kind of know the things that I want. I don't know exactly like what brand or what certain item I want, but I have an idea. What do we want here? Honestly, I'm thinking maybe I should go for the health. No, let's go for the spell damage. So you start there and you start looking, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Within my price range, these things look pretty good. What happens if I just raise this budget 10%? What happens if I go to $110? Well, then you're starting to look at the things that are like, yes, they're a little bit better than the things you were looking for in your original $100 budget, but based on the previous specs that you're looking at, you're kind of now looking at the things that are like, though they're at the bottom of they're the bottom tier stuff at $110. So what do you do then? Well, you increase kind of what you're looking for. You start increasing your requirements, and it's like, okay, you're starting to get into decent stuff now. But now that you've increased your requirements a little bit, okay, well now your cost, maybe you're just better off going to like $115 budget, and then you start doing these things until your budget is it's just like out of control, and it's like, well, how do we get here to $200? Well, we walked our way up, but it's something that actually, like, Apple does extremely well. I'm definitely not an Apple boy. I love my Androids. I love my PCs. Well, this seems great. Oh god, yeah, we're in the explosion. The exploding boys are gonna be hard for us to take out while we're this slow. If movement speed comes up, I might have to prioritize taking that. Where Apple does this great thing where they kind of walk you up the chain. So someone comes in, they want to buy, and I'm gonna butcher these numbers here because it's been so long since I even looked at an iPhone. I don't even know where they're at right now. I just know they just got the ability to like customize your screen, something that Android has had for the past, I don't know, like 50 years. So they're like, oh, well, you know, because they have like multiple different versions of the base phone. So you have like, okay, well, here's the plastic I forgot what it's called, right? But there's like the plastic version. And then it's like, well, if you go for an extra $10, you can get, you can get a little bit of extra storage. And then, if you go for an extra $20, you actually get this extra button that gives you a little pat on the back because you chose Apple. And then, like, you just keep going up. And then pretty soon, after you keep doing these, like, $10, $20 upgrades, okay, well, now you're at the second tier of phones. Now you're off of the plastic version of the phone. Now you're onto the version that has, like, acrylic on the back. And it's got like a fancy new screen, but now you're like $200 more expensive than your original budget. And then it's like, oh, well, now that you're on the acrylic phone, why wouldn't you take, you know, it comes with a free drink every week upgrade, which, you know, it's only an extra $5. And then, well, if you get that version, well, you might as well just get the version with like the $10 button that every time you press it, like a child is no longer hungry in the world. And that, you know, like, and then it just like keeps escalating. And then it's like, well, you're only $5 away from the, you know, titanium version of the phone. And then pretty soon your, you know, $100 iPhone that you came in for that was plastic, you're walking out of there with like a $2,000 computer that fits in your pocket. And they do that just by having all these different breakpoints that get you very close to the next version. And then once you're on the next version, it's very easy to justify a couple 5 or 10. And again, it's probably better to say it in percentages, but you guys get my point, is that it starts getting easier and easier to justify these $5 or $10 or percentage point upgrades. And then after a couple of those 5 or 10 percentage point upgrades, well, now you're at the third tier of upgrades, which, you know, so now that you're up there, because it's easier to justify it, right? It's a lot harder to justify when you're down at that $100 plastic phone versus the $1,000 titanium phone, right? That's a big jump. But when you make the little like $5 jump to the super souped up plastic to the acrylic phone, and of course these are all very arbitrary names that I'm just kind of making fun of Apple for, right? Because I do remember they had like the iPhone like 8C or whatever, which was like, wasn't it like plastic? It was like the kid-proof phone or whatever. That was just like much cheaper. Right? It's a lot easier to make that kind of a decision, to go from like a 5 percentage point from the lower model to the higher, to the middle model. It's very hard to make a consumer go from the lower level to the highest level. But if you keep walking them up, they can keep justifying these 5 or 10% increases until they're at that highest tier. And now they're no longer justifying that original purchase they wanted to make of the plastic phone to this titanium phone. They're just justifying the decision right before it to all of a sudden just increasing 5% more. So they're just looking at that 5% difference versus the, you know, 1,000% difference in cost from the bottom to the top. And you can hate on Apple all you want, but they are very smart in the way that they tier out their prices and more or less manipulate the consumer to keep walking themselves up and spending more money. Because you might think to yourself, even if you're not going from the bottom tier phone to the top tier phone, right? That is obviously a very big jump, and most people are not really going to do that. You don't need to look at it on a person-by-person basis. You know, you don't need every single person to make that big $100 or $1,000 jump. Right? It's a lot easier to make 1,000 people do the $100 jump to $110 jump, and that's even bigger than that. That's a $10,000 jump. Regardless, if it's easier to make 1,000 people make a $10 jump than it is to make one person do a $1,000 jump, well, then you just 10x that money, right? So it's all these little things that step up and up and up, that if you have a consumer base of millions of people and you take even a small percentage of them and have them upgrade just once or twice, all of a sudden, you know, your profit margin goes, you know, up pretty high. let's just say that. Let's just leave it like that. Spell damage, that seems great. What else we got here? Max health, I'm actually going to take. I don't know why I'm taking max health. I still have 2 lives here, and this guy is super going to die. I forgot how we got on that. Oh, right. I was talking about Path of Exile gear and how you can just, like, continually walk yourself down a rabbit hole. But, yeah, that's probably a much... People can probably, you know, relate to that much easier than they can Path of Exile. But that was kind of a decent little discussion about economics and how businesses just rake you over the coals. And it's not even about raking you over the coals, right? Because for most people, again, most people are going to think about it as like their own spending. One person, like, oh boy, this was a rough decision to go here. One person making the decision to spend an extra, let's say $20 or $30 on their phone. Not a big deal, right? Most people would look at that and be like, you know what, this isn't that much more money, and I am getting an upgrade. But again, from the company's perspective, they're not looking at you as an individual. They are looking at the consumer base and how they can get as many people as possible to make these small upgrades, because that is going to drastically improve profit margins. And so that's why it's easy, right? It's very easy for one person to make an extra $10 or $20 upgrade. It's a lot harder for a smaller percentage of people to make those big jumps, but it does happen. So, what do we do here? Perform 15 elemental infusions. We got a new element, ice. I'm gonna be honest. Oh, no, we had lightning. Right, I was looking at this and I was like, didn't we already have ice? But no, lightning we have. Cool. So ice, and I'm assuming these are the fusions, right? So it looks like we have, what, lightning and ice. We have just ice. We have acid and ice. Interesting that I don't see... Maybe this is fire. Maybe this is lightning and ice. This is fire and ice. So this would be... I don't even know what this would be. Oh, double ice. Double ice. Okay. I'm assuming. I have no idea. Nice! We actually beat it this time. We beat it last time. Just went into endless mode. There we go. Alright, well, thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. If you did enjoy the discussion, you enjoyed the video, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more roguelite action. I've been Ganyonz. Thank you so much for watching. I'm out of here. I'll see y'all next time.